Morning, everyone. Good morning. Am I audible?
Yes,
Good
ma'am.
morning, ma'am.
Okay, I'm sharing the
Good morning.
the peer deck code with you. So just give me a moment. Let the students join in till that time. 26. Okay.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Morning, ma'am.
Morning. So I'm sharing the link with you. In case you're not able to join with the link, then the code will be CGBYAC. Directly go to peerdeck.com. In case the link is not functional or doesn't let you through, so go to peerdeck.com and use the code CGPYAC. Yes, 26 students have joined in. Please be quick. Are you facing any problem in joining peer deck? Anybody in the class? Okay, fine. So I go ahead with the class. So yesterday we were discussing the barriers to communication, and I think we had begun our discussion on the physical barriers. We had already discussed noise, we had discussed time also. So what did we discuss about time yesterday? Yes, Arunit?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Vita, what did we discuss about how time is a barrier, in what different ways time can be a barrier in communication?
Time can be a barrier. For example, if we want to talk to some other person and that person was busy at that moment,
Very good.
so it can be a barrier.
Okay, good. Yes, Divyam?
Ma'am, it can be a barrier on the basis of frequency of communication, the duration, the deadlines, and the schedules. Arunit already told about the schedules. The
Hmm.
frequency is how often and for how long people communicate between each
Hmm.
other, and that's duration. And yeah, that's it.
Okay, good. Yes, Neha?
Can be a barrier since many countries have different times. So if we
Yes.
convey
What were the two terms that are introduced? Though I will be introducing these terms to you again when we discuss non-verbal communication, monochronic and polychronic countries or cultures. Yes, please continue, Neha.
if we want to convey a message, then there will be night also, so that person cannot talk to us at that time.
Very good. The different time zones. Very good. Okay, that's something different that you're telling us. Very good. Yes, Sahil. Sahil.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I'm telling that time can be a barrier, and for example, when we have to communicate with someone and provide them more knowledge in less time, then it
Hmm.
can be a barrier.
Very good. Very interesting example. Yes, Shivansh.
Ma'am, could time be a barrier in such a
Be
case?
loud, Shivansh. You're not audible. We are encountering some kind of physical barrier,
Ma'am,
technical barrier.
ma'am, could
The
like,
medium of communication is not working properly.
ma'am, I'm audible now.
Yes, now you are better.
Ma'am, could time be a barrier just in a case like if we provide some information before some task is going to happen, so it
Hmm.
results in some gossips and misunderstanding.
Before, after. Okay, we can, but then you need to clarify this example, because it is not necessary that, how, in what way. You have to be very concrete with the example, that how can your prior uh, divulging of information result in gossip. You
Ma'am,
have to
that's
give a
what
very
I'm
concrete
asking.
example. Okay,
Ma'am, that's what I'm asking. Could it be a
that's what
barrier?
I said. You have to, yeah, if you say you speak in terms of before doing something, right? Before the
Yes,
schedule, before the scheduled meeting, before, when you talk in terms of before and after, no?
yes, ma'am.
Right? But then you have to give a very concrete, specific example. You just cannot say, if we give the information before something has to take place, it can result in gossip. This will fetch you no marks, because you are flouting, you are being vague. Okay,
Okay, ma'am.
semantic barrier. It is open to so many interpretations, this sentence.
Okay, ma'am.
Are you getting my point? right?
Yes,
So it is very interesting when we talk about barriers. You must observe me, you must observe the students in the class, that sometimes if there is somebody asking me that, ma'am, please explain it again, then you should understand that what could be the gap between his understanding and ma'am's explanation. This will help you to practically understand the barriers that we are discussing in the class. This is not a theoretical concept that we are discussing, students. This is a noise, this is something that you encounter every day. Every day. And it is very important for you to understand that why your communication is not being effective, it is not producing the desired result on the other person, because you have to find out what are the filters that are playing between you and the other person. If we start paying attention to these small little things, even in our normal conversations, though it is hard, I know it comes with practice, because now you are at this particular stage, you have a certain personality, you have a certain mental makeup, and any change that you will have to bring about in your life now, it will require a lot of dedication, effort, and discipline from your side, because this is not an impressionable age now. This is an age when you already have a personality trait, you already have a certain way of thinking, you are in a certain mold. There is scope for change in you, but that is a scope which is uh, more prone to, let's say, the field that you have chosen. So now what you're going to learn further, but the small aspects of soft skills, of those things which are not part of your syllabus, when you try to inculcate those changes within yourself, then it takes a lot of time. So if you start paying attention that where I'm going wrong or where the other person is going wrong, you will realize that how things start falling in place, how you're able to next time be more careful. While though people may say that if you're careful in communication, it means there is formality. No, this is all nonsense. It is not like that. Being careful means being selective with the words, being empathetic, right? So anyways, coming back to our discussion. So monochronic and polychronic countries, I had introduced these two terms yesterday. Anybody remembers what is their meaning or the example that I'd given you? Yes?
Ma'am,
Please.
monochronic country. Ma'am, in monochronic countries, 9 o'clock means exactly 9 o'clock, and in polychronic countries, 9:15, 9:05 is also considered as
Very
9 o'clock.
good.
And the example
Yes.
of polychronic country is India.
Yes. Monochronic and polychronic cultures we talk about. I would have rather taken this up in cultures as a barrier. See, in monochronic countries, time is linear. Like, let's take the example of US. Very particular about time. Time is money. They are and these are sweeping generalizations, okay? Exceptions are always there, right? Very particular about time. So if you're working with an American, for that person, 9 will mean 9. That these people, they schedule their day. Those who do, they schedule their day very properly. They know the task at hand, right? When we talk about cultures like ours, mostly the Eastern cultures, right? Cultures like ours, we are polychronic. A very common example, when you receive the invite for a wedding, reception of Bharat, what is the printed time?
5.
5, 6, generally 6, 7 p.m. And what is the reporting time actually of the Bharat?
10, 11, 9.
10, 11, that's the normal time, right? And if you reach the venue spot on time, you won't find anybody there. Right? And this has become a norm, and this actually, it happened. I'll cite you an example. It happened like with it was my husband's boss's daughter's wedding, and because he works in a French company, So when the invite was given to the French people, the French nationals working in the company, now the reception of Bharat was mentioned 6 p.m. And this bunch of French nationals, they arrived at the venue dot 6 p.m. And what do you think the sight over there was?
Empty.
No one stay.
Yeah, the people from the host side were not present. It was the, you know, the touching up of the venue that was going on. They waited there till 8 o'clock. Right, and after that they left the venue because they had other appointments scheduled. And so when, you know, they tried to contact them, so they were like, you know, we came according to the time. The reception of Bharat was mentioned 6, so we reached there at 6. We waited till 8, and then we had other appointments scheduled, right? And when we were actually running late, and we were I was quite nervous that, oh, it's after all the bus, right? And when we reached the venue around 10:30, 10:45. We saw that the barat is just at the gate, and we were like, okay, fine, we are not late, we are on time. That was the instant response that we gave. Okay, fine, we are on time, we are not late. So this is what happens in polychronic cultures. Now, just imagine, when we talk about barriers, when polychronic and monochronic cultures come together and work, do you expect misunderstandings and clashes?
Yes, ma'am.
Right? So, and so that is why understanding of different cultures becomes so important, right? We need to change our work styles according to the person that we are dealing with. So these are, you know, a number of ways. At what time you are contacting the person, where, you know, how many times are you meeting the deadlines, are you submitting the assignments on time or not? So all these, they leave an impression on the other person. Distance, I think it is very much evident. I need not explain how distance becomes a problem. So you are seated apart, you are at a distance, calling out to a person or listening to a lecture, and the voice is not very much audible to you. It becomes a barrier in communication. Or you are separated by distance, and when distance, it is the devices that connect us, and there is some problem. Either the devices are not present or they are not functional, like you're encountering the internet connectivity issues now. That's the best example. So how it becomes a barrier in communication, right? Or sometimes you say that we couldn't connect to the class because there was some internet connectivity issue. Now over here, socio-psychological barriers will also come into play apart from physical barriers, and I'll take it up a little later. Then we talk about physical impairment. So either you have some problem with your hearing, you are maybe somebody is deaf or dumb using hearing aids. Like my father, he used to, after a certain point of time, he used to use hearing aids. He himself was a professor. So what difficulties he started encountering at some point in his life was that the voice would echo. Students would say something and the voice would echo, because if the adjustment of that machine went haywire. So he would find it difficult to sometimes conduct the class smoothly. So how, this can also be a barrier in communication. And deaf and dumb, I think I need not explain how they find it difficult to explain it to the people who do not have such limitations, and how we may find it difficult to connect. Or we saw that video, if you remember the first video that we saw on barriers in communication, how the physical impairment became a big barrier of communication between the two. In that particular video, almost all of these barriers are getting covered. How does age become a barrier in communication? You have certain value points here. Can you give some examples related to it? And this will fall, age and gender will fall in socio-psychological space also. How will age as a physical barrier? Yes, Divyam.
Ma'am, many of the older people are not able to understand the new technology or the lingos or the
Very
slang
good.
the young people
Yes.
use. So it
Yes.
becomes a
Very
barrier.
true. Vihan?
Ma'am, a lot of the time the people of previous generations who believe they are wiser, etc., talk down towards
Yes, that's
newer
very
generations, and
right.
that's
We associate maturity with age. The younger you are, more foolish you are, more immature you are. Older you are, more mature you are. Whereas this is not the case. Always. Yeah, maturity and wisdom comes with maturity and wisdom comes with experience. If your life has been such at a very young age where you've seen many ups and downs, you will be more mature, right? You will be more mature. Yes, Pragati.
I feel that certain things might be okay and normal with certain group of people, whereas they might not be the same with the other set of people. So it doesn't mean that uh, what for example technology, it's normal with us with our generation but not with our previous generations. But there are certain things, for example, how to take proper decisions, so that might be like imposing rules like not to go out after 10 or 8 or come back at home. So that might be okay and normal with our previous generation, but we are not that flexible with the rules and all that.
I
So we
really
need
like
that
this
kind of.
word that you use, Pragati, that we are not that flexible. With the, I believe with the older generation, you might be flexible with your own generation.
Yes.
Can we put it that way? No, this is I'm asking you. I'm not imposing my will on you. Can it be perceived like this?
Ma'am, we are more open with our generation, and we feel that uh, and that is, I guess, the reason why we are able to connect. Like, for example, if I sit with my group, my age group, and I talk about like my father doesn't allow me to go for night parties or something. So that is something that all of us, all of the people of my generation or my age group would able to relate. But if the same conversation I'm having with my aunt, or maybe my mother, so that might be we might have clashing uh,
And why?
thoughts about
Yes,
it.
yes, right. And Pragati, why do these clashes happen? Because
Ma'am,
of
again, I would say
because our
because
communication
they've,
is not.
ma'am, because they have experienced more. They know what is right, and we are still young. We need that kind of.
No, it's not about they know what is right. It is more about that they have gone through a certain phase that you are still phasing through,
Yes, ma'am.
right? And most of the times this problem occurs because our communication is not is not receiver centric,
Yes, ma'am.
right? Very good, very interesting explanation, Pragati. Yes, Divyam.
Ma'am, those clashes occur because they were raised differently and they have we have different ideologies.
Yes, exactly. And the different ideologies happen because of difference in exposure. Maybe if technology was that fast and that advanced at in our times also when we were your age, maybe we too would have behaved and reacted the way you are, right? So it is a
Yes, ma'am.
difference of that also, right? So they find the phones irritating, they find internet irritating because it was not their thing at that particular time. Otherwise they belong to a generation when Ramayana and Mahabharat, they had the capability of making people stop their cars, change their schedules, and according to the timing when these programs came, they were there on the television. You know, if you ask your parents or if you ask your grandparents, they'll tell you. We were very young, very young. I still remember. And there is this one incident very clear. We were traveling by bus and it was a Sunday and Ramayan used to be telecast 9 a.m. That was the time. And I still remember the driver, the conductor, and all the passengers in the past they got actually very anxious that, oh, we are going to miss this program today, and they actually parked the bus. The driver, one of the persons, they went to the house of this gentleman, a random person, the house by the roadside, and they just requested that, we don't want to miss today's episode of Ramayan. And they moved the television set from their living room to their small garden that they had over there. They fixed it up there. They arranged, they made all the seating arrangement. All the passengers from the bus got down. They watched this serial Ramayan for full 1 hour or half an hour, whatever the duration was. I think it was 30 minutes only. And they served tea, water, snacks to all the passengers. Can you imagine this today? You can't even think of it today, right? So when we talk about how if today's generation is hooked to the technology, so at that particular time, people were hooked to these programs because Doordarshan was the only medium available of watching of entertainment at that particular time. So that was the limitation, right? And you can just imagine the craze, right? So that is why very interesting examples you people have given us. So our environment, like I said, it plays a big role in what kind of maturity we display, what kind of wisdom we have. And like you gave the example that we have age specific social groups also. So you have your own social groups, your elderly people. You must have seen in the morning walks, during the morning walks, or even in the parks, or even nowadays, elderly people, they have their own laughing group. They have their own committed groups that they are a part of, right? Then gender. How will you explain gender as a barrier in communication? If we get into the discussion of gender, it's going to be a long one. Yes, Pragati.
Ma'am, I wanted to put forward this point not on gender, but just a specific, just a normal general point. That
Yeah.
we all were born in 2002, where technology wasn't that flourished and full-fledgedly working. But as we grew, I still remember that I was in class fifth and I didn't attend the school that one day, and we had this we used to have that telephone, that dial one, and
Yeah.
I took my assignment on that what all happened on that day. But nowadays, when I see my cousins or my cousins' daughters and their children, they are they have their own WhatsApp groups,
Yeah.
where in which mothers are a part. So it's a great technology a change that has come
You
over
asked
a
me, we are
decade.
more aware and alert than our kids are.
Yes, that exactly, ma'am. So that is not creating a communication gap right now, but
Yeah.
after a decade that might create a communication gap, because we have different things that
Tools.
we associate back when we were kids, and they will associate differently. So that is completely two different things.
And it is happening. It is, this technology is resulting in detrimental impact also, because at that time we were more responsible for our work,
Exactly, ma'am. Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
So now the kids, they are a bit relaxed. Okay, it's okay, the message will be there, the homework will be there on WhatsApp, or mom will take care, that kind of an approach and
Yes.
attitude, right? So when we talk about maturity, experience, and wisdom, all these factors play a very big role in that, right? Yes, Vihan.
Ma'am, with regards to gender, the issue and the barrier with communication is that people don't understand. They the people who are stereotypical or provide a certain stigmatism towards women in general don't know any better. It's just that's the way they've been brought up, and which is why they don't have. There's no logic that defines the way they work, which is why they can't be reasoned with, and that's why there's a barrier in communication.
Right. That's very true. That's very true. Yes, Divyam.
Ma'am, not only the stereotypical people, but I believe many times even the normal people fail to understand some problems the other gender might be facing, because they were not educated about those things,
Gender,
and
yes.
like lack of knowing things about.
Yes. I can at the moment actually sense a kind of inhibition in being very vocal with the kind of examples or the kind of notion that you want to explain at the moment. That itself speaks of the kind of conditioning that we undergo. Yes, Ariman?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I would like to give an example. I don't know if it might be true or false, but I would like to still give it. Ma'am, women, when encountering a problem, would share it with another person, while men would solve it alone.
Sorry, can you please repeat?
Yes, ma'am. Women are more likely to talk to other women about their problems, while men may solve it alone or internally.
No, this is not true.
To be honest, this is one of the problems people taking stereotypes as like the general thing, what everyone will do.
I'm so sorry, I don't know how I got disconnected. Yes, please continue. Ariman, you were saying something? Hello? Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
so Ariman, you were saying
Yes, ma'am.
something? Okay. Anybody else who would like to explain?
Ma'am, he said, ma'am, I wanted to tell you what he said. He was saying that women are more likely to discuss their problems with other women, whereas men try to solve their problems on their own.
And that's not true.
No, this is a stereotype. But this
Oh
is a
yes, ma'am.
generalization, but this generally happens. This is not true. But yes, this generally happens maybe with the older generation more. Let's put it like that. Maybe with the older generation more, right? And this actually is an example of how we are conditioned, how men should behave and how women should behave. And when we talk about gender, we cannot limit ourselves only to men and women. There are different genders in the society. There is the third gender also. So when we talk about gender and when we talk about barriers that we encounter, you can see, can you see over here, though in this particular category, we are supposed to discuss gender in terms of the physical space only, right? How it is a physical barrier, how do we perceive a girl, how do we perceive a man, or how do we perceive the third gender? You yourself at this moment think about your car is there at the traffic signal. How do you perceive a, a person from a third gender approaching you, or when you just happen to have a look at them? What kind of your mocking attitude, your your snobbish approach towards them? You may not exhibit it, but this is the thought going at the back of your mind, right? So there are personal space, professional space, physical space, psychological space. Instead of segregating into small bits, I put it into 4 zones. Personal space, the discrimination that is faced by the gender. You talk about men, women, and you talk about the queer community. You talk about any of these people. And in the personal space, are they given their personal space or not? When we talk about space, well, women's problem is always at the forefront. When we talk about women empowerment is there, is not there, or what kind of women empowerment is there? Is it like, has it resulted in subjugation of another kind of subjugation of the more powerful women, of the less powerful women by the more powerful women? uh, Powerful men have always overpowered the men, or overpowered women. But that's another kind of segregation or another kind of subjugation that is that you find. So when we talk about gender, it is not just men, being their approach towards women. It is the women's approach towards women. It is about our approach towards the third gender. When we talk about homosexuals, when we talk about the entire queer community, what is our approach towards them? How the professional space treats them when it comes to promotion, when it comes to salaries, when it comes to occupying the top-notch positions. There is a reason if a woman occupies a top-notch position in a company, it is news. So it means this is not normal in this society, right? You talk about the presidents and the prime ministers across the world. You can count the female premiers on your fingertips, right? Or in the political arena. The third gender, the queer community, you just forget them, that they are too much on the borderlines. Too much on the borderlines. For them, it's a long journey. It's a very long journey, right? How the physical space gets hampered, right? And the psychological trauma that they go through. Like girls are not supposed to cry, are supposed to cry, boys are not supposed to cry. A very common conditioning that I'm sure all of you must have gone through, right? And let me tell you, when this chapter, my son is in class 6, and diversity and discrimination was being introduced to them. So the teacher said that, for example, like boys are told that you are not supposed to cry, and girls are told that you are supposed to cry. My son was immediately, he said that, ma'am, this is not true. Boys also cry. Even I also cry. I also get hurt. I also feel the pain. And the teacher was taken aback that, no, Pranish, this is exactly what I'm trying to say, that boys can also cry. So this setting this new normal, I think even you people are conditioned in a way to think like that. You yourself tell your friends, don't cry like a girl. Or when it is wedding, during the wedding, vidai. So if the girl doesn't cry, it is a topic of gossip. Oh, she didn't cry. Oh, she was laughing, Oh, things are changing, Oh, well, she's stepping into a new life. She might be actually happy about it, right? So, and howling your way through Vidai doesn't always mean that, okay, you are more sad because you're crying and you're not sad because you're not crying. But how this is one example that I often discuss with this, something that happened with my friend. She lost her dad when she was in class 8th. She lost her mom when she was doing her graduation. And there are 3 sisters. And she was the eldest one. And when people were coming for mourning at their place, so the relatives wouldn't let her sit over there at the mourning place. Why? Because she was not able to cry. Now, why she was not able to cry? One, she's not very expressive with emotions. Second, she didn't want to show herself as weak. Third, she was more concerned about job, that now I need to take care of my 2 sisters. So, and people started talking about her. They started finding it very weird. Now, why is she not crying? Or when it happened at the wedding, I'd gone to my native place. I'm lucky that I have the exposure of city, and I have, during our holidays, we used to go to visit our village also. So over there, when I attended one of the weddings, I found it so weird. The people started gossiping that she did not cry as much as the girl in the previous wedding cried. That, or make her cry. There were women saying that, oh, what will the Baratis think, and make her cry, ask her to cry more. So how our society conditions us to behave in a certain way, or how when we were in school, we found these girls who were more tomboyish. We found them really weird. They should behave like girls. Or this little boy in our society, he was more interested in embroidery or in knitting, and we used to make fun. Or I'll quote a very recent example. You people have clubs in schools to join, right? So my son, he opted for embroidery. So the teacher was like, that Pranish, do you know what is embroidery? So he said, no. He said, embroidery means needlework. He said, okay, ma'am, it's fine. So he came home and informs me that, Mom, I have opted for embroidery. And even my reaction was, embroidery? Do you know what is embroidery? I said it will be all about, silai, kadai and needlework and stuff. And I do not know why, and I feel so bad about it. I almost said that this is something that, girls do. He was like, before I uttered this, he said, so what? I will learn to stitch my own buttons in the shirt, for which I have to run after you all the time. And I was like, this is what girls learn. Mostly girls will be there. He was like, is it really bad to learn that? And then I do not know what happened. Next day he went to the teacher, and he changed his club to environment. But actually I felt very bad about it. After that, I kept coaxing him. It's okay. You may become a fashion designer tomorrow. He said, no, now I've changed my club. It's okay. And I'm just fine with it. These examples that I'm discussing with you, it's not even tip of the iceberg. And if I start discussing the issues faced by the queer community, I hope you are familiar with the word queer community.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Right, I think
LGBTQ.
most of you should be, all of you should be familiar with the queer community, the problems that they face, personal life, professional space, psychological space, and how society perceives them, how you perceive your friends or people. In fact, when we talk about, we were having this discussion the other day, that when we talk about some people during group discussion or for some particular event, they will be very forthcoming when it comes to, we are very open, we are very welcoming to the queer community, and it's okay, it's normal. But when you actually get to know that there is somebody close to you, how do you react? Do you accept it as normally as you talk about it? So talking about it and saying that we are perfectly fine is a kind of a fad. It's a kind of a fashion nowadays, because then you are labeled as being modern. You are a part of the inner circle. But when you actually respond to that situation, respond to these different people, and imagine, you see, these different people, the words that I've used, it means there is already the conditioning in us is so strong, and we need to overcome that conditioning. So when we talk about gender, the barriers that we encounter when we interact with them, these barriers are not just related to men and women. They are related, they take care of all the genders, right? So even men face discrimination. You are supposed to work. How many of you will opt, if given a chance, if given an option, to be house husbands? Raise your hand. Okay, don't raise your hands, at least speak. You will be okay with not working and with your wife being the breadwinner, with your wife working and you taking care of the house and the kids and the rest of the family.
No,
Ma'am, I'd be okay with it, but I feel like I'd also get bored. I need something to do.
No. See, you really
ma'am,
think me?
simply no.
I would rather like you to take over your mom's job for a day or two, and you will realize that you won't even get time to get bored.
Really?
Really?
Yeah, that's why I don't want that.
It's like you have so many things at hand. When you're at home, you're just not free. You're just not free. You ask us, working from home.
Ma'am, we
It is not
realized it
as
in
charming
lockdown
as you
actually.
imagine it to be.
Ma'am, we realized it in lockdown actually.
You realized it. I'm sure some of you must have realized it during the
Yes,
lockdown.
ma'am. Actually, me and my uncle were left in our hometown, so
Okay.
we had to do the chores of the house. So he would cook and I would do the utensils and every stuff around the house. So
Right. So imagine somebody doing it throughout her life without any, like we talk about, without any salary, without any holiday. Right. So, and we don't even think that they need rest because they are at home. And now being at home, I actually realized that being at home is not about, that you have enough time to rest. No, it's not. It doesn't work like that. But still, my question goes unanswered. See, how many of you? So there is already a conditioning, and it's not just about you. Girls, how many of you would prefer your husbands to be house husbands? See, all of us are conditioned. You know, it's not the fault of men. They're conditioned to behave in a certain way. If you don't have a job, you don't even get married. Girls still have the option of getting married. This tag doesn't go with women that if you're not working, then you won't get a match. But with men, if they are not working, they won't even get a match. That's how the society works. That's how conditioning, that's how the barriers are created, and we get conditioned to think, to behave, and to perceive other people in a certain way. All right, so next we come to the socio-psych. You know, this discussion on gender is a long one, so we'll maybe take it up as a topic of group discussion or presentation if you people like. So let us move over to the next set of barriers, that is socio-psychological barriers. Now, before we discuss these barriers, let me share a small clipping related to socio-psychological barriers with you. Let me know if the audio is not there. Audio is there?
No, ma'am.
Individuals have personal.
Yes, ma'am, it is
Now
there.
it's fine. Okay.
Individuals have personal feelings, preferences, fears, attitudes, beliefs, and opinions, which tend to build barriers in the mind of the listener, making him or her an ineffective listener. These barriers are better known as psychological barriers. The psychological barriers that will be discussed are egocentrism, ethnocentrism, conflicting information, poor retention, and emotions. First, an egocentric listener has a self centered attitude where they often interrupt or stop the speaker from talking as they tend to judge what the speaker is saying before listening to the whole message delivered. They are often impatient to wait until the person finishes delivering the message. This tendency is called premature evaluation. Furthermore, egocentric listeners have an overall critical attitude where they often divert their attention from what the speaker is saying to pointing out errors and faults in the speaker's appearance, delivery, grammar, and accent. Second, no matter what a group person belongs to, his or her values and opinions are influenced to some extent by that group. Nevertheless, some people tend to oppose any opinion or idea that conflicts with their group values and interests, which makes it challenging for a speaker from another group to make the listener understand how they feel and think. This barrier is called ethnocentrism. Third, conflicting information occurs when the listener receives information from the speaker that is conflicting with what already he or she knows. The listener might start to ponder during the conversation about the validity of the information of what he or she already originally knew. Another approach of the listener would be interrupting the speaker and start raising questions or even verbally denying the validity of the speaker's information. The listener will refuse to believe what the speaker is saying unless the speaker's information is more logical than what the listener already knows. Fourth, the brain memory capacity to save information and the way it is stored in one's memory is called the retention of memory. Certainly, only the information that the person believes it will be useful for later will be remembered by him or her. When a listener is hearing a message that is overloaded with information, the person tends to forget most of it in a matter of minutes, often causing the information to be valid or distorted due to poor retention of memory. Furthermore, delivering a long message over the phone would definitely shift the listener's focus from the message as nonverbal communication such as body gestures and eye contact is missing. Thus, it is important to choose the right communication channel to communicate a certain topic. Fifth, flow of communication can be either smoothened or hindered by the listener's positive or negative emotions. Furthermore, being overwhelmed with emotions can cause the listener to divert their focus from the conversation and start wondering about the overwhelming experience they had. Thus, the person will not give an appropriate feedback or would simply agree with whatever is being said by the speaker in order not to seem ignorant. Furthermore, when there is a lack of trust between both parties, both will aim to generate a negative meaning from the message that is communicated while ignoring the gist of the message. This can cause a severe psychological listening barrier. After going through these psychological barriers, the strength of your attention span barrier will be tested by this activity. Basically, you will watch a movie.
Okay. So, what is the gist of this particular video? What is it talking about? Yes?
It is talking about some barriers in communication.
Or some barriers, but which barriers?
Different kinds of
The
psychological barriers.
psychological barriers.
Okay. So there were certain, tunes that were being shared with you. So, and there were certain dialogues over there related to certain barriers. So what did you observe? Yes.
Summer accent was a barrier too.
Please be loud.
Summer accent.
Accent. Okay. Yes, that was maybe some of you must have encountered this one barrier, and the speed also. Yes. Anybody else?
There was a lack of trust between the two who are going on a trip. That makes also.
So the one going on trip, not was it lack of trust, or what was it? Was excitement when you were high on emotions? And
No, ma'am. In next phase, there
was lack of trust.
Yes, ma'am. That
Okay,
we would
what was
do in
yes.
team. That will be.
Yes, and what was happening in the one in which they were going on the trip?
Ma'am, she was very excited about the trip.
One was very excited about the trip. So how does her excitement become a barrier in communication? Anybody?
Ma'am,
Yes.
ma'am, she would divert from the main objective of the trip rather than doing the job she used to do. So, ma'am, if the other person would be explaining anything to her, she would be focusing on traveling to some places.
That is exactly what is happening in that particular video. No, that woman is telling her that we have to take care of this and that, and she's lost in the thought. Her excitement has created an invisible barrier. She's not receptive to what she's saying. The other person, right? What other situations did you notice over there? Because this video was explaining these different barriers with the help of certain situations, certain examples.
Ma'am, some of them envy each other.
Yes, very good. What else?
Ma'am, perspective, that my perspective is right while the other one is wrong.
Is wrong. Yes, perception is the biggest barrier in communication. Okay, so we'll continue with this. Yes, yes, Prajwal.
We can also add that if the person can believe my perspective is superior than the other, I don't need to think what he is thinking. Mine is better.
Yes, yes, that is the biggest barrier in communication that we encounter. So what we'll do is you just recollect, just go through this this entire video once again. I'll upload it and just try to understand what kind of barriers are being emphasized, or what kind of situations are being emphasized, and we'll take up the discussion on socio-psychological barriers tomorrow. So till that time, stay safe, stay healthy, take care, and have a wonderful day ahead.